Have you ever felt a moment so small, so ordinary, that no one else would notice it, but something in you stopped as if the world had whispered your name? Maybe it happened this morning. You reached for your coffee, half awake, half distracted, when a strange stillness passed through you. No message, no vision. Just a shift, subtle, undeniable, like something was waiting for you to turn your head. What if that wasn't imagination? What if that was the first signal that a threshold in your consciousness is thinning? If that line hits something in you, stay with me. Picture this. You walk into your living room at the end of a long day. Nothing mystical, nothing dramatic. But as you set your bag down, the room feels slightly different, deeper, almost aware of you. The air has weight. The silence has texture. It's as if the space itself is leaning in, waiting to see whether you'll notice. And you do, because something inside you has been waiting a very long time for this moment. A memory older than your story, older than your body, rises like a faint echo. The memory of the monad, the field you once moved through effortlessly before this world trained you to forget. You haven't stepped into that awareness for ages, but tonight, something is aligning around you. Something is calling you back to what you were before the separation. If you're still here listening, it's because you felt that quiet shift too. And what comes next is meant for those who can sense the tremor before the revelation. There is a phrase, a three-word key, older than doctrine, older than language. When spoken with understanding, it doesn't lead you toward the monad. It draws the monad through you. Tonight, you will learn that key. A familiar thought moves through you, one you've had 1,000 times. But tonight, it lands with a different weight, as if reality itself shifted half a degree and exposed a seam you were never meant to notice. It isn't confusion. It's the first alignment stirring beneath the surface of your awareness. The early Gnostics never described awakening as struggle. They described it as coherence, an inner field returning to the frequency it was formed from. One of their old texts says, "When the eye returns to its own source, light recognizes itself." You don't need the metaphor to understand the truth inside it. It points to a single principle. The monad does not appear when you reach outward. It appears when something inside you falls into resonance. The shift is subtle, like a radio fumbling through static. Off the exact frequency, everything is noise. But when the alignment clicks, even by a fraction, the signal arrives whole, instant, unmistakable. Awareness functions the same way. You don't climb toward the monad. You settle into the field where its signal has always been broadcasting beneath every moment of your life. You've brushed against that field before. A late night when the world went quiet enough for your attention to loosen. A drive through darkness where the air felt impossibly deep. The way time seemed to soften for a breath, and something vast moved beneath the ordinary scene. That was not imagination. That was contact. Because reality isn't a single layer, it's two. The first is the surface field, the routines, the noise, the pace that keeps your awareness circling the outer shell of experience. Beneath it lies an older field, quieter and far more precise, one that only reveals itself when your grip on the surface begins to relax. The Gnostics said separation was never a fall, it was a narrowing. And widening begins the moment you notice what you were trained to overlook. Stillness is what opens it. Not forced silence, not effort, but the soft unclenching of attention. When the mind releases its grip, even slightly, something ancient begins to rise. Thoughts stop behaving like commands. They become currents. Reality softens from a wall into a membrane. This is the atmosphere where the three-word key finally works. Without this widening, the phrase is only sound. With it, the phrase becomes a tuning fork, aligning your inner field with the source field beneath all things. And if you listen closely now, you may already feel it. A faint hum forming behind perception, a subtle pressure opening from within, the first outline of a deeper layer turning toward you. That is resonance taking hold, and resonance is the doorway. Picture a single flame resting in the center of a dark room. It doesn't push the darkness back, and it doesn't try to, yet the moment it appears, the space rearranges itself. Shadows take shape, depth returns, and you begin to see what was always there, only waiting for the right kind of light. Awareness shifts in the same quiet way. It doesn't create new truth, it reveals the one beneath the noise. And the instant that inner light steadies, even a little, the deeper pattern of your life begins rising with the same precision as a current finding its path. You've brushed against that current more times than you realize. A word spoken at exactly the right moment, a calm slipping into the center of your chaos, a silence opening in your chest without warning. Nothing dramatic, yet impossible to ignore. Those were not coincidences. They were signals from a layer of reality that doesn't speak in language but in recognition, a layer the early mystics tried to describe when they said the soul does not learn by force, it remembers by resonance. And resonance rarely announces itself. It arrives as a knowing that precedes explanation, a truth that settles before you have words for it. Imagine walking beside a river at night. You cannot see the water clearly, yet you feel its rhythm, sense its speed, understand its motion without ever stepping in. That is recognition, not knowledge, not effort, just awareness falling into alignment with something older than your thoughts. Awareness meets the monad the same way. And that recognition may already be stirring in you now. A soft unclenching in the chest, a familiarity in these words, a subtle turning from somewhere beneath your perception. Hold that, because this is the first sign that your inner field is shifting into the atmosphere where the key can finally function. Before any key can turn, the lock must take form, and in this very moment, quietly, naturally, it is taking shape in you. There comes a moment on the inner path when awareness shifts without warning. Nothing dramatic, no vision, no rupture in the world. Just a quiet reorientation, like walking into a room you've known for years and suddenly noticing a window you never realized was there. The world hasn't changed, but your angle inside it has. The early mystics had a name for this subtle pivot. They called it the turning of the inner face. The instant attention stops running toward noise and begins settling into presence. You've felt moments like this before. Think of the end of a long day, sitting in your parked car before going inside. The engine is silent. The air is dim. And for a few suspended breaths, you exist between the version of you that lived the day and the version you're about to return to. In that small pocket of stillness, your thoughts lose momentum. Your breath settles deeper. The space around you feels just slightly wider than it did a moment ago. That widening, barely noticeable yet absolutely unmistakable, is the first sign of the lock beginning to assemble. You don't force this stage, you fall into it. And as it begins forming, distinctions sharpen on their own. You sense which thoughts are truly yours, which emotions rise from truth instead of reflex. Awareness gains texture, denser, steadier, and the surface of your life thins just enough for the deeper layer to press through. This is why ancient teachers spoke gently at this threshold. Not because the teaching was fragile, but because the listener needed enough inner room for the transmission to land. When the chamber is open, the key doesn't skim across the mind. It enters, and as the chamber stabilizes, a quiet gravity forms, not heavy, but certain. It pulls your attention toward the most coherent part of you, the part the monad has never stopped recognizing. The field beneath perception draws closer, almost preparing to meet you. If you listen closely, you can feel the signs of coherence gathering, a widening somewhere behind the mind, a faint brightness rising from within, a subtle invitation forming at the center of your awareness. The lock is no longer assembling, it is waiting, and the key is almost in your hand. You may feel the shift long before you can name it. A quiet tilt in your inner world, as if something inside you has stopped scanning the horizon and begun listening from its center. It isn't clarity, it's gravity. A soft pull drawing your awareness inward toward a place that doesn't demand your attention, but receives it. As that listening deepens, the field within you starts to change its behavior. It no longer feels like a distant backdrop. It feels responsive, close, almost aware of you in return. Stay with that sensation for a moment. It's like stepping into a corridor made entirely of stillness, where the air doesn't echo your footsteps but softens them. Each step doesn't break the quiet, it thickens it. Inside this corridor, thoughts lose their authority. They appear and dissolve without dragging you into their orbit. Emotions pass through with the gentleness of shifting weather. And beneath it all, there is a stabilizing presence, an unseen structure rising under your awareness, holding your inner weight with a kind of quiet certainty. This is recognition in its first form. The mystics once wrote, "The root greets the branch when the branch remembers its origin." They weren't describing revelation. They were describing return. The monad does not respond to force, it responds to remembering. And something in you is remembering now. You might feel it as a loosening in the chest, a widening behind the eyes, or a calm that doesn't match the pace of your day. However it arrives, its direction is always the same, deeper, inward, toward coherence. Pause here. If even a thin layer of this quiet has touched you, if the atmosphere inside you feels one shade denser, one shade clearer, leave your sign below with a single word. Light recognizes light, then turn inward again. Notice how the silence has shape to it now. Contour, density, intention. Beneath your thoughts, coherence is forming like a slow, dependable tide. The inner chamber isn't assembling anymore. It is steady, present, ready. And from this steadiness, the next movement won't come from more ideas or explanations, but from the key itself, as it begins to press against the edge of your awareness, preparing to enter. You may reach a point on the inner path where your awareness begins turning inward without your permission, quietly, naturally, the way a tide changes direction long before you notice the shoreline shifting. Nothing dramatic announces this moment. You simply sense that something inside you has become more attentive, more exact, as if your perception has begun listening from within, instead of scanning the world outside. The early mystics had a name for this turn. They called it the breath that listens, a state where each inhale feels like it's receiving something subtle, almost intelligent, as though the world is adjusting itself to match the rhythm of your awareness. You might feel it now. A smoother breath, a moment stretching just slightly wider, a sense that you're occupying your own inner space more fully than before. This isn't stillness, it's participation. Your inner movement aligning with a pattern that has always been there beneath everything, and as that alignment deepens, your sensitivity sharpens. You begin to notice things that don't come from the surface world at all, a gentleness tucked inside the silence, a faint intention behind your thoughts, a quiet coordination in the timing of what unfolds around you. These aren't signs, they're synchronizations. The first proof that your awareness is moving in step with something older and unmistakably deliberate. This is the stage the ancient teachers guarded, not because it was rare, but because it was potent. When you enter this listening breath state, revelation stops arriving as information and starts arriving through your whole being. You haven't stepped into a chamber. You've stepped into an inflection point, a bend in the path where the ordinary world can no longer follow you inward. Here, the threshold responds only to intention, not effort. And intention is exactly what the three-word key is built to shape. You are closer than you think, closer than you've ever been. Let your next breath arrive on its own. Let it place you where you need to stand. Because when the phrase comes, it won't ask you to understand it. It will ask you to recognize it. As your awareness settles into this deeper stillness, something precise begins to form inside it. Quiet, clear, like a faint doorway gathering behind your breath, shaped entirely by recognition. You've been moving toward this point since the first line of this journey, whether you realized it or not. The early mystics said the passage into the monad does not open through effort or desire, but when intention and understanding finally stand in the same place. That alignment is here now. You can feel it in the way your breath has slowed without being asked, in the way the space within you feels structured instead of empty, in the way your awareness leans inward, as if it already knows what comes next. So let me give it to you without delay. The three words are, return to source. Let them sit inside you for a moment, not as a command, but as something you've always known and are only now hearing in your own language. A key is not powerful because of its syllables. It's powerful because of the direction it turns your consciousness. These three words don't beg the monad to appear. They turn you back toward the place where the monad has been holding you all along. Return is not movement through space. It is a folding inward, a drawing back to your own root, the point before your awareness was pulled apart by roles, stories, and noise. 2. Gathers your intention. It narrows all stray desire into a single coherent line, so your energy stops scattering and begins to travel in one direction. Source is the origin field, the living awareness beneath every layer of perception. The monad itself, the one you've been brushing against in every quiet moment of your life. When these three words come together inside you, something subtle shifts. You may feel a gentle tightening at the center of the chest, or a deeper gravity entering your breath. You may not feel anything dramatic at all, only a quiet sense that something has clicked into place. Whatever rises, trust it. That is the chamber responding. Tonight, before you sleep, take one simple moment. Sit in stillness. Feel the breath that listens. Let the phrase gather once inside your chest, then speak it aloud. Steady, clear, without rushing. Return to source. Not repeated like a spell, but offered once as recognition. And when the shift comes, even the smallest one, let it move through you softly. Let it anchor without effort. Let it mark the beginning of the path back to the one who has never stepped away from you. When the phrase settles inside you, the shift is quiet but unmistakable, like something in your center finally returning to where it has always belonged. You don't force it, you simply notice the breath soften on its own, the way the space within you feels more aligned, more honest, more like a place you've stepped into before but forgotten how to reach. Let that recognition deepen for a moment, not by concentrating, but by allowing. Because what follows now is not a practice, not a technique, but a remembering. So before this closes, take one slow, steady breath and let these lines move through you, not as recitation, but as embodiment. Return to source. I remember the root. I stand in the field of the one. Let the words echo inside you for a heartbeat. Let them find their own depth. Let them settle into the stillness forming around your awareness. That stillness is the chamber. That stillness is the doorway beginning to open, the same doorway the ancient mystics guarded, and the same doorway your own soul has been circling back toward in every quiet moment of your life. And if even the smallest shift rose in you, a warmth behind the ribs, a widening behind the eyes, a subtle lift in your breath, let it be known with one word below, returned. It signals to others walking this unseen road that the threshold is active and that you've entered the deeper current. If this journey reached you, If something inside you answered back, then like this video, subscribe, and remain within this field of remembrance. Every step you take strengthens the chamber for those who follow. You now carry the key. Return to Source and step fully into the truth that has been waiting for you all along.